Hello, I'm Rachel Wicaksono.
And I'm Chris Hall.
And Chris and I and our colleague Patrick Smith are the authors of Mapping Applied Linguistics, and we're going to chat about the book today. And I'm going to start by asking Chris a question. Chris, can you tell us a little bit, first of all, about yourself, and then say where you were and what you were doing when you first thought of Mapping Applied Linguistics?
Okay. Well, I was in Mexico with Patrick, who is now at the University of Texas at El Paso. That's why he's not with us today. We're here in York in the UK. And Patrick and I were colleagues at the University of the Americas in Cholula in Mexico. And the idea came really from conversations with Patrick and the teaching we were doing there, where we'd reshaped the MA program that we had there in second language teaching, English and Spanish as second languages, and broadened it to be more of an applied linguistics program.
Right.
And it worked. Patrick, his background was very much sociocultural theory, language, reading and culture, I think was his PhD. Worked a lot in literacy and bilingual education. My background, very, very different, in originally theoretical linguistics and psycholinguistics, but we came together with other colleagues as well, who were doing areas of applied linguistics as broad as Mexican Sign Language, so sign language education, the maintenance of indigenous languages, literacy, bilingual education, English language teaching, of course, and other areas. And even though we had such different backgrounds, we understood each other, and we were able to contribute, I think, to each other's development and to our students' development.
Right.
And that's where the book, I think, really came from, that realization that such differences could enrich student experiences.
Right, and exploring those sort of connections between your different
right.
fields and learning from each other. So, what about the title, Mapping Applied Linguistics? Where did the idea of mapping come from?
That was Patrick, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. There's a nice. We've got a nice map on the front of it, the cover here, and I think there's one quote that particularly nicely summarizes the idea. It's not in the introduction; it's in the preface. From Casas Cortez and Covarrubios, 2008, to make maps is to organize oneself, to generate new connections, and to be able to transform the material and immaterial conditions in which we are immersed. It isn't the territory, but it definitely produces territory.
That's really nice, isn't it? Yeah. So there's something there about a new way of organising the discipline of applied linguistics, and that's what we were interested in, the scope of the discipline and the relationship between applied linguistics and linguistics.
That's right.
And other fields of practice, making connections, but also in a way by working with each other and from our various different fields and with the students that we've taught, kind of producing a new map.
That's right.
Of our territory. For ourselves, but also as a guide for future practitioners and students.
That's right. But always recognizing that the map is never finished,
right.
and also that the borders that we think are there are often not. Right. That was one of the main ideas that we had, was that applied linguistics is about crossing borders in so many senses.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that tied in with a lot of our ideas too, didn't it, about varieties of language and how artificial borders to languages, political and economic borders, can be used against sometimes the populations of the people within those borders.
That's right, and as we call them, clients of applied linguistics, including obviously many students of English, who are not necessarily needing a native speaker model, but that's what's being delivered. So that was one of the major issues that informed a lot of what we did and what we're
still
working
doing.
on as researchers.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. So in that case, that idea that English is somehow can be corralled within a national border of England as if it belongs there, and any English that appears beyond those borders is somehow artificial or wrong or in need of correction.
Yeah. And of course, the other borders that were particularly significant for us to break through were between the different disciplines. No? So in the 3 sections of the book, we cover a lot of ground, right? And in the 3rd section, section C, we go beyond the traditional borders of applied linguistics as it's been narrowly conceived, I think, in the past, and look at language pathology, forensic linguistics, translation, and lexicography, which are not normally seen as within the territory by many people anyway, many practitioners and theorists.
One of the point that maybe we can make it now is that an interesting part of writing the book was that Chris and I were here in York and Patrick was in Texas, so we were, on different ends of the map, as it were, and we had to find ways of working together, didn't we?
That's
developing these ideas, writing collaboratively, etc. So we got very interested in the use of technology, didn't we, to surmount those problems, and used various different technologies to work on the text.
And realised at the same time that was a way in which increasingly practitioners and students are being empowered to really become active members of a community of applied linguists. No? And that was one of the one of the major kind of principles that emerged out of the writing of the book. No, because we did come up with a set of principles, almost like not a new philosophy, but certainly our own first realization that there was a shared philosophy between the 3 of us. And one part of that was definitely trying to contribute to a more bottom-up, participatory kind of applied linguistics, which included all the players.
Yes, and so we've developed together with the book, we've developed a companion website, haven't we, to go with the book, and we're hoping to use this technology that we've been exploring in the writing of the book and in our teaching as well, to create a kind of community in which practitioners from all of these different fields that you've mentioned, the speech and language therapists, the language teachers, the literacy teachers, the lexicographers, the translators, etc., will be able to participate. They'll be able to add their experience, perhaps tell us about things that have happened to them in their workplaces, problems that they've had, and maybe get solutions or suggestions from other areas of applied linguistics which maybe they wouldn't have had chance to have contact with in the past.
That's right.
And to build up this idea of applied linguistics from the bottom up, this sort of shared community.
And we got examples of that in a sense, haven't we, in the final chapter, where we introduced 5 practitioners from all the way around the map of the earth, and each one is featured on the website as well. So there are some videos and some audio. No, I think we have transcriptions of some.
Yeah, there are videos and transcriptions of some interviews. That's right.
So those would be good models, I suppose, for people if they wanted to. To upload their own experiences.
Definitely.
And each one of those practitioners does more than one kind of applied linguistics, right?
That's
each
true.
one is a translator and a teacher, or we have a language pathologist who also did English language teaching as well, and a literacy teacher who's also a translator, etc.
And from different parts of the world as well,
right.
talking about their different practice contexts. So we hope that readers of the book will get involved in the website, don't we? And there'll be a new way of creating the discipline from the bottom up. So the other thing to say, really, I suppose, what we were thinking about, we sort of focused on 5 main ingredients, didn't we, of applied linguistics, and there's information about this in the introduction of the book, which, as is often the case perhaps with introductions, was I think one of the bits that we wrote last.
That's right.
In working through the other chapters, the 12 main chapters within the book, it was the final chapter, which Chris has just referred to, in which we feature the 5 practitioners, and the introduction, I think, the beginning and the end of the book, which came came last. And so we've got 5 different ingredients of applied linguistics. Do you want to say anything about?
Well, I'll start
those
off.
are?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one was, well, the centrality of client needs is what we titled that section, and yeah, that is central, I think, to our understanding of the discipline. Is that even though we may not everyone might like the choice of the term client, because we don't really mean to imply that there are market forces necessarily driving, well, certainly not most of applied linguistics, but certainly the people, the users of the language, of whatever language, who are experiencing problems or needs which applied linguistics can help them resolve. And yeah, it has to start there, I think, with language problems, and language needs and the client's experience, right?
Right.
I think that's where we started from. And that's what makes it so different from theoretical and general linguistics. No?
Right. Yes, and it's often actual needs, but as importantly perceptions about needs, isn't it? Not just with perhaps the client themselves, but with the people that are surrounding them as well.
That's right.
Which makes it often a very complex problems that we're dealing with. Yeah. The second ingredient was what we're calling a pragmatic orientation. And I think this goes back to the mapping metaphor, actually, that maps are not neutral. They can't be neutral representations of territory. There inevitably a selection of features. And what we're admitting that our presentation of applied linguistics is necessarily a selection of features and of aspects and of ways of seeing and thinking about language. But we've been open about that as far as we can be, and we've also tried to encourage applied linguists in their own work to think through their theoretical orientation to the situation in which they're facing, and to try and surface some of those assumptions about language.
And ideological as well, right?
Exactly, yes, that's what I mean. That some of their theoretical, ideological assumptions about language, about groups of people, etc., and the interaction between those two, and to be pragmatic in their choice of different approaches, depending on what particular approach might benefit a group of clients, which is kind of linked to social and cognitive embeddedness, isn't it? Yeah,
which is the third kind of central feature of our view of applied linguistics. Now that we, I remember, thrashing this out a number of times now in the course of writing the book.
Yeah.
But because the two approaches are seen to be incommensurable. No, the great paradigm gap between sociocultural theory and more cognitively oriented theory. But we've been clear from the beginning that even though the theory might not fit together naturally, certainly language itself naturally and obviously has to be seen both as a cognitive and as a sociocultural phenomenon. You know? And in so many areas of applied linguistics, you ignore one of them at your peril. That's what we found. No.
Yeah.
So.
The fourth ingredient was to do with role shifting and collaboration. And again, I think that goes back to your points about where the book originally came from. Was that you had this group of quite diverse people, all interested in language issues, language problems, working together. One thing that's been borne out by our experience as applied linguists, my experience has mainly been English language teaching. English is an additional language, but increasingly I became aware of other roles which I was taking on within the classroom and needing to know more about the practices within those areas. So I've had students, for example, with hearing difficulties and very little experience or knowledge of what that means, and where I've been able to, in the past I've had to try and find out about those issues and integrate them into my teaching. By role shifting, we want to make the point that applied linguists although they may have a particular professional focus, they may find themselves calling on different professional areas, and they find themselves shifting between different roles.
Yeah, increasingly that's happening.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And also I think the other part of that was the practitioner part and the sort of more theoretical part, the exploring what research has shown about a particular problem, or trying to understand more about the way researchers approached a particular problem. So moving, I think we make the example of moving in the morning between reading some, maybe an academic paper on a particular issue, in the afternoon in the classroom, in the evening chatting with a speech and language therapist online, who knows, about a particular issue that you faced in the classroom.
That's right.
But role-shifting collaboration.
Yeah. And ultimately, of course, we're all students, aren't we? I mean, I've learned so much from you in the last couple of years.
And vice versa.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, of course. Yes, and necessarily so.
Yes. No, we continue to be. Yeah. And the last feature is mode of inquiry. Do you want to address that one?
Well, that sort of bundles the first four ingredients, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the fifth ingredient is about how the first four interact with each other and create a way of being, a way of practicing, a way of seeing the world as necessarily complex, best tackled in collaboration with other people, needing to be understood from a socio-cultural and a cognitive or psychological perspective, etc. So I think we just bundled all the first four ingredients into that fifth one and said, actually, the addition of those four ingredients, that the result of those first four ingredients is a particular way of being. Yeah,
absolutely.
Which we thought really summed up what it means to be an applied linguist. Yeah. Okay. Well, we hope that you enjoy reading the book, and as importantly, we hope you find it useful. Yeah. I don't know which is the most important, enjoyment or usefulness.
I think both. Both. And that the process continues now, even after the last page, that you get involved through the website.
Yes. So we look forward to seeing your stories and viewing your contributions on that website.
And interacting with you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.